Tonight on News 5 Live, Prime Minister Dean Barrow meets with representatives of the butane companies. Barrow tells the reps that the National Gas Company and the new LPG regime are a reality. Who will be the next leader of the UDP? Patrick Faber or John Saldivar? Prime Minister Dean Barrow says he's made up his mind. Former City Administrator Candice Miller is suing the Belize City Council for $500,000, while City Hall is countersuing for $1 million in dereliction of duties. A bus driver is found guilty of the manslaughter of 2 men following a collision in 2015. And prices for regular gas and diesel going up at midnight. Details of these stories and more coming up in tonight's newscast. Welcome to News 5 Live for Wednesday, October 2nd. I am Marlene Cuellar. A meeting between Prime Minister Dean Barrow and representatives for Belize Western Energy Limited, Gastomza, and Southern Choice Butane, Zeta Gas, took place today in Belize City. The meeting lasted for more than an hour, and the discussion revolved around the National Gas Company. In August, the government passed the Natural Liquefied Petroleum Gas Project Bill, which established a national gas company, which essentially transforms the LPG industry into a monopoly so that the National Gas Company is now responsible for supplying the country with butane. It is taking over the business from 3 suppliers owned by a Mexican investor. These companies, however, have taken issue with the new regime and today finally met with the Prime Minister. The government is saying it will have better insight on pricing, and invited the companies to bid for transportation.
The meeting was very amiable, very constructive. They clearly have some concerns, but I think we took the view that had been articulated by Gilly Canton, who is, as you know, the principal mover and shaker behind the National Gas Company. That is, the current companies, what the National Gas Company will do is act as the exclusive importer and wholesaler for the LPG, for the butane. As things now stand, the current companies do the importation as well as the retail. And we've had our problems in the past in terms of maybe a divergence of view between themselves and the Suppliers Control Office and the Ministry of Trade as to the fairness of the importation prices. With the National Gas Company, of which government is a 25% shareholder, their exclusivity is confined to the sourcing of the butane. That way we control the pricing, and we know that nobody can tell us, nobody can give us figures that are perhaps questionable. But the actual transportation of the LPG is to be done not by the National Gas Company. In effect, what the National Gas Company will do is to invite people to bid. You tell me, and the first preference will be given to the current companies, the current operators. You tell me at what price you can bring in the LPG that's needed, landed at Big Creek. And we will see if there are others that can bring it in cheaper. We want to be sure that the price at which the LPG is landed is going to be cheaper than the price at which currently the operators are bringing it in.
The 3 current importers of LPG are encouraged to bid for the bulk supply to the terminal. Speaking on behalf of the companies was Ernesto O of Zeta Gas. According to O, the meeting was amicable and he sees a favorable response from the government in terms of the bids and that would be put forth by the 3 companies.
Right now, our concern is just to talk it over with different persons from the different ministries, and then we'll iron it out. And the event, like I said, is going to be the developing story, and we'll let you know how it goes.
But sir, did the companies...
Was a good meeting with the Prime Minister? Was he amenable to hearing
Yes,
concerns?
it was our first meeting, and it was very good.
Sir, but do you think that the companies reacted to the formation of this company too late because it has passed, it's backed up by legislation, it's probably existing now?
Like I mentioned, we will be having further meetings with the different ministries, and we'll let you, and we'll inform you guys as it develops.
Is it concerned to the companies that the bids will be put out to tender and not necessarily that the 3 companies will be getting those tenders?
We still don't know that. That's something that we'll iron out with the government and other ministries as time progresses, but we see a favorable response on the part of the government at the moment.
The Prime Minister and representatives of the three current butane importing companies have scheduled another meeting, though the time and venue has not been agreed upon. According to concerns by the companies will be further discussed. However, Prime Minister Barrow reiterated that there is no reversal of the National Gas Company and its mandate.
They said they weren't aware of the extent of the role they're still expected to play. I suggested to them, but Lord, this thing has gone to the House. It was in the news. There were House committee meetings. You had every opportunity to go and make presentations, but they still said there was a degree of ignorance on their part.
This is our first meeting with the Prime Minister in regards to the new national liquefied petroleum gas project. We will be having other meetings further on with him. This was just a first to get the first feedback on this project, and that's all we have to say for now. We'll keep you informed on the development of the story as it goes by. Right now, we just got the information on the project itself. We have many concerns, but we will further discuss that as we progress further on.
It may well be that after that meeting, there are still areas of disagreement. At which point, the Minister of Trade, Mrs. Panton, and her Supplies Control Officer, Mr. Trejo, will get involved to see if we can't come to an overall understanding. The bottom line is, though, as I've explained to them, this is now the law of the land. There is no way we're going to retreat from a position that we are positive will ultimately benefit the consumer. One other point I made to them, without, as it were, wanting to point any fingers, this way again, we are able to control the situation in terms of quality. We are the ones importing the gas, so we are the ones that are able to monitor and test to be sure that there is no kind of blending, no kind of dilution. So it is from 2 points of view that we see this as being advantageous to the consumer. Lower price, better quality.
The Public Service Union has been ordered to vacate its Belmopan Hilltop headquarters by October 31st. The order is by Simplex Designs Limited, which has hired attorney Esteban Pereira. A recent letter sent to PSU President Gerald Henry says that if the PSU fails to vacate the premises by the allotted time, it will be evicted. The property was sold to the Corozal Company in November 2018 by the Belmopan City Council, and the PSU has since been unable to get back its headquarters. The PSU says that while the sale was legal, it will not move until it cashes in on equitable interests it has in the property. The Prime Minister had previously said he would assist, but the Belmopan City Council gave the union the runaround. Now, when the time comes for relocation, Prime Minister Dean Barrow says that the government will be more than willing to assist.
In terms of trying to find other land for the PSU, government would be more than inclined to try and help. And I think that's all I can say with respect to the legal wranglings, the legal contentiousness. I better leave that alone. Because
Sir, is it regrettable to you that an organization that seeks to protect the rights of public officers its home is currently in a status of flux?
Of course it is, but as to whose fault that is, I'm not going to comment.
Deputy Director of the Belize Tax Service, Reynaldo Verde's legal woes continues in the USA. Today, he was denied bail. Verde was nabbed by the FBI on charges of interference with commerce by means of extortion and attempted extortion. The criminal complaint was made by the principal of Orchid Bay Development, Chris Williams, who reported the matter to the FBI, which carried out months of investigations and recorded Verde as he sought to collect $350,000 to wipe away taxes owed by Orchid Bay. A recommendation has now been filed in a U.S. District Court for pretrial diversion, which is an alternative to prosecution, which seeks to divert certain offenders from traditional criminal justice processing into a program of supervision and services administered by the U.S. Probation Service. This means that Verde might not do jail time. Commenting on the matter today was Prime Minister Dean Barrow, who said that not all public officers are shakedown artists.
When you look at the charges and the details supporting the charges, it doesn't look good. But I would hope that people would recognize that the vast majority of public officers are honest and conscientious. Of course, there are some that aren't, but I don't think we should use the apparent wrongdoing of some as a brush with which to daub the entirety of the public service. Absolutely not. By and large, I think we have good, hard-working, honest, conscientious public officers.
The tax department said that they are going to investigate Mr. Verde in his own right. Do you believe that whatever cases he dealt with in the past should also be investigated?
No, those should be looked at. If there is an allegation that this man was a shakedown artist, without commenting on whether the allegation has merit, is unfounded, or in fact is something that is true, certainly an effort should be made to look at all instances. There may be other people who will come forward now to say, look, I was the victim of a shakedown, and those sorts of things should be examined.
The prices for regular gasoline and diesel will be going up at midnight at gas pumps across the country. Regular gasoline will go up by 34 cents, and consumers will now be paying $10.27 per gallon. In the case of diesel, the gallon will be going up by 14 cents and will be selling at $10.01. Now the price of kerosene will remain unchanged at $7.37 per gallon. The silver lining is in the price of premium, which will be going down by 25 cents and will now be retailing at $10.59 per gallon. There's much more news after the break, so stay tuned.
For the past few years, Belize has experienced substantial growth and development primarily because of the decision to invest in better
Gen.
The case against the Belize City Council brought by former City Administrator Candice Miller adjourned around 4:30 this afternoon in the courtroom of Justice Courtney Abel. Mayor Bernard Wagner was on the stand throughout the day, being cross-examined by Miller's attorney Magali Perdomo. Miller was let go from City Hall back in 2018 when the Wagner administration took over. She was first placed on suspension and then terminated for dereliction of duties. Miller is now taking the council to court for wrongful termination and is seeking roughly $500,000. The council is countersuing her for $1 million for dereliction of duties. The court today heard Mayor Wagner's explanation as to why the council was left indebted with over $1 million. There is reference to a payment of $59,000 to Gilly Franklin for road works, which the council says was too excessive and paid the day after they assumed office. The mayor was questioned about statements he made to the media leading up to the termination of Miller. Perdomo also attempted to establish that Wagner had blocked Miller from carrying out her duties. Attorney for Citco, Anthony Sylvester, provided a brief statement following today's proceedings.
The trial continues tomorrow. The mayor is still being cross-examined. We can't comment at this point, unfortunately. But as the judge indicated, hopefully everything will be concluded by Friday. And as he indicated, if all goes well, he may give his decision by Friday evening. So that's where we are.
Cross-examination of the mayor will continue on Thursday. The fate of Albert Morera, accused of the murder of his estranged common-law wife, has been decided, and he will have to stand trial at the Supreme Court. According to Senior Magistrate Tricia Pitts-Anderson, the defense did not challenge any of the documents, and while there is no direct evidence that Morera committed the crime, there is sufficient to put the defendant on trial. Felisa James was last seen in her Kia SUV, which had broken down on the coastal road. A mechanic testified that he had bought parts from the dismantled vehicle from Morera. The badly decomposed body of James was found on October 19, 2018. She was last seen alive on October 11, 2018 in the company of Morera. A witness told the court he had given Morera a tow and then saw the vehicle on fire. 4 years ago, a bus driver from St. Paul's Bank in Belize District attempted to overtake two vehicles as he headed from Belize City to the village. He never made it past a passenger bus and collided with another vehicle. Two Belize City men traveling in the pan of a pickup truck driven by a businessman were killed. Late this evening, the trial of Eaton Belisle, accused of the manslaughter of both men, concluded before a jury of 8 who deliberated for 2 hours and found Belisle guilty of 2 counts of manslaughter by negligence. Their decision was unanimous. In his defense, he maintained that he was innocent of the charges. In a doc statement last week, he said he could do nothing and apologized for the losses of life on August 14, 2015. He was driving his Mercedes-Benz in the company of 2 others. When he reached between miles 6 and 7 on the Philip Golson Highway, he attempted to overtake a vehicle at a curve, but could not and crashed into the pickup truck driven by Yuang Sheng He. Shane Goff and Alden Locke sustained head and body injuries and died. 2 witnesses testified that Belisle was driving fast, and the Crown alleged that he was negligent. Sentencing is set for next Wednesday before Justice Colin Williams. Due to several aggravated factors, he's remanded to the Belize Central Prison. The squatting problem along the Belize-Guatemala border by residents of El Barrio Juda in Guatemala has been a recurring issue. Pictures obtained by News 5 show Guatemalans clearing lands near the border on Belizean territory. The pictures and videos were posted by the mayor of Melchor de Mencos, who reportedly told the residents they can settle in the area. It is an issue that the National Security Council has discussed several times, and Prime Minister Dean Barrow says he does not doubt that the report is true.
Every time we have a National Security Council meeting, there is a report. And that Barrio El Huda is a continuing problem. Every time, remember how the protocol is, we receive reports, the BDF goes, confirms, makes the, in fact, complaint to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Foreign Affairs passes it to the OAS, they go and they verify. And once they say yes, the settlement is in Belize, then we are entitled to destroy it. You do it, a few months later they come back. So I haven't heard of this latest incident, but I would have no doubt that it is true because it's a recurring problem.
The problem of phantom voters and voter padding continues despite a recent countrywide re-registration. But Prime Minister Dean Barrow says that it is not something that will likely go away. $8 million was spent for the mass re-registration exercise with the main purpose to clean up the voters list. Leaked documents show that in some divisions, the Elections and Boundaries Department failed in detecting fraudulent registration. Historically, both major political parties are known to pad the voters list, which is something that the Prime Minister agreed. But it is illegal for someone to register an address where they do not reside. And Barrow says that in that case, the registration can be objected to and left for the courts to decide.
If that is a sin, it is a sin of which both parties are guilty. In terms of any individual charges, there's a process. You go to court and the revising officer will determine after hearing evidence whether in fact people have been properly registered. The objections are made by those who claim otherwise, and the judicial process will make the ultimate determination. You may be right that the rules of transparency demand that people ought to register where they truly live. But that's why there's a process, and that's why the courts are involved. It is not the registration officer, the public servant who is appointed properly, but who you might want to argue may be subject to political pressure, that ultimately has the final say. It is a magistrate, and we all respect the sanctity and the independence of the judicial officers, and I don't think you can get it any better than that.
It's illegal for anyone to say that they live there where they don't, in terms of registration.
Right. So there are objections to somebody saying, I live at address number so-and-so. And the question of whether the person really does live there, once there's an objection, as I said, has to be determined by the revising officer.
According to Prime Minister Barrow, padding of the voters list, which he described as voter shenanigans, will always be with us.
This is how far things go on. Life is real, and I think we must be honest. People who are determined to register at an address at which they don't live, they get their ducks in a row. When the registering officer goes to try and authenticate or verify the claim that applicant A lives at a particular address, applicant A has already arranged things with the home owner or with the neighbors to say, yes, applicant A does live here. I'm not quite sure what you can do about that. You're going to continue to have both sides and a number of individuals running red lights, so to speak, is again, I think, an unchangeable fact of our political system and political landscape.
Because the people would have to change.
Well, right. It would have to be that the electorate is going to be, in that regard, so honest that nobody will say, I live in Queen's Square, when in fact I know that I live in Caribbean Shores. That is perfection. That is perfect virtue, and I don't think such a thing exists in this world.
Yeah, but I guess someone can argue that it's the politician driving this house padding phantom voters, because they'll get anyone to go in their constituency, set up a house, I'll register you there so you can vote for me when elections come.
Well, again, look, you have me in an awkward position because I can't disagree with you that in terms of the intention of the system and the rationale for the system, that it shouldn't happen. But I will continue to tell you that it has happened from time immemorial. Look, that kind of voter shenanigans, if you will, is like the poor, you know. It will be with us always.
He is serving for 3 terms as Prime Minister, and Dean Barrow is now winding down his last term. Today, Barrow told the media that he will not remain as UDP leader and Prime Minister up until the day of elections, which are due in 2020. Barrow intends to step down before the general elections, but has not decided on the exact date. Barrow says that he will consult with his cabinet colleagues after the party convention in February 2020 to decide on an exit date.
I really have to talk to colleagues in cabinet once the contest is over. The convention date is February 9th. The budget is usually read on about March 8th or so. Should I stay for the budget, at least since we would have been at the time of the convention right in the middle of crafting it? Is it fair to leave that to somebody who is new? And if I stay for the budget, then do I go the 1st of April once the new financial year starts? Do I wait a little longer? It really is going to be dependent on what colleagues say after the convention is over.
When Prime Minister Dean Barrow steps down, the new leader of the United Democratic Party will ascend to the prime ministerial position. The UDP is set February 9, 2020 for its National Leadership Convention, which will take place at the Belize Civic Center. The race is between Deputy Prime Minister Patrick Faber and Belmopan Area Representative John Saldivar. Whoever wins the convention will become the UDP leader-elect. When the Prime Minister officially steps down before the next general election, the UDP leader-elect will become Prime Minister. Prime Minister Barrow told the media that he has made his decision on who he will vote for.
I don't expect a third entrant. I think that the 2 declared aspirants will end up being the ones to contest. I will not ever publicly disclose how I'm going to vote. I already know how I'm going to vote, and it is a matter about which I've spoken to several of my colleagues, but I don't think it would be fair for me to publicly say I'm supporting one or the other.
After the break, a fish kill reported in Libertad as the effects of the contamination of New River moves down.
Fishing is my profession.
There is another fish kill being reported in the New River, but this time the reports are coming out of Libertad Village in the Corozal district, where concerns grow over the pollution in the water. A video shows hundreds of small fish floating around in the river, while some struggle to stay alive. Officials of the Department of Environment had said it would happen as the sediments in the New River begin to flush out with the increasing rainfalls. In a related incident on Tuesday, the Sartaneja Alliance for Conservation and Development responded to a call of a dead dolphin calf on the shores of Cerro Sands Resort near Copperbank Village. A necropsy was conducted on the dolphin, which determined the cause of death to be internal bleeding due to muscle bruises in the chest area as a result of blunt trauma. While it was widely suspected that the creature died as a result of the contamination from the New River flowing into the sea, a government release stated that this was not associated with the death of this dolphin. The release adds that when it comes to the water quality of the Corozal Bay, it has not found any evidence of degraded water quality conditions as those currently observed in the New River. And on the matter of the New River pollution, in the Corozal Bay, there are growing concerns about the pollution seeping further north. Because the tributary empties out into the Corozal Bay, residents and businesses are worried that it will affect their health and livelihoods. Minister of Environment Omar Figueroa says those concerns are valid, but the extent of threat is not yet known. The assessments to be conducted will provide more clarity.
They have some legitimate concerns. Essentially, we had this advanced eutrophication that happened in the immediate vicinity of Orange Walk Town and the BSI facility. So now that the rains have started, that will actually go down the river and go into the Corozal Bay. It's hard to really explain fully what all the threats are once it reaches the bay, because this type of studies that we need to really understand, to look at the sediment, to look at the composition of the water, these studies haven't really been done in the past. We're just finding the resources now to go down and look at the sediment and see what it is that's down there.
On Tuesday, the Minister of Environment, Omar Figueroa, told the media that they have identified the funds to be used to conduct tests in the New River. Figueroa says that for the first time, serious analysis will be done to get to the bottom of the problem. The assessments, according to Figueroa, will go towards the long-term management of the river. Here's an update on the works being done to remedy issues being experienced in northern communities as a result of the polluted river.
I think now that the rains have started, you will see the problems start to go away little by little. We are actually looking at gaining some resources that will be used to conduct two important studies that we have identified. One is the sediment analysis along the entire riverbed. This is a very expensive undertaking. And the other one is a full-scale bathymetric study. We're looking into using LiDAR as an option. I think the cost that we're looking at is something about $250 per kilometer, and for a river that extends 125 kilometers, it's not a little bit of money. But I think we have identified some potential sources of funding. I think we're pretty okay. We're looking at getting this started pretty soon. Once we have those in place, it will really come a long way in setting up the long-term strategic management of the entire New River. The Lands Department has actually started the analysis to look at the land tenure along the entire river, entire watershed. One of the first things that we will start doing in the immediate future is start to reclaim the 66-feet barrier, because as you know, that buffer, that riparian habitat plays a key role in actually trapping the nutrients that come down. So now as the rains start, a lot of those nutrients will start flowing into the river. They settle on the bottom of the river and it just becomes like a little time bomb for the future. So we're looking at this thing comprehensively, we're looking at it systematically, and I think I'm very confident that we will be able to tackle this problem and get a hold of it for the long term.
2 weeks ago, the government declared a state of emergency in several areas of the country as a result of the prolonged drought that has impacted the agricultural sector. Government committed to assisting farmers, and we will have an update on that initiative ahead. But first, we take a look at how the drought is expected to negatively impact the sugar industry in the north. BSI Director Mac McLaughlin, who attended a meeting with CARICOM sugar stakeholders today, told the media today that the drought is inevitably dealing the industry a major blow. Here's what he had to say.
I think it's inevitable with the level of drought we've suffered in these crucial recent months that we will not have the same estimate of crop that we would have had last year. I don't have a direct estimate for you at the moment. Remember, last year we had a record crop, record sugar production. This year I know that the cane is stressed, very stressed. It's had a lot of difficulties because of lack of water. And I think, we as an industry, the farmers ourselves, we have to come together. We have to look at the best mitigation we can make for that to ensure this doesn't have effects beyond this year into the next few years. We're looking at climate smart solutions to some of the problems we have. We've got major proposals with the 5 Cs at the moment, the Green Climate Fund, to try and bring assistance. Now, this is needed anyway. It's needed because of the impact of climate change on a rain-fed crop that we have in Belize. So we need to look at a lot of different solutions. They're not going to come overnight. We need to look at water management. We need to look at different types of varieties that are going to perform better in more volatile weather conditions. But yes, unfortunately, this is a major blow to the industry and to our cane farmers, as we have seen, particularly in some areas of the cane farm, significant damage to the crop.
The next sugar crop is expected to commence in December. The sugar industry is not the only one that has been hit by the prolonged drought, which according to the experts is the longest in Belize since the 70s. Consequently, government declared a state of emergency after estimates put losses of produce in excess of $50 million and committed to assist farmers. The assistance included the development of a working group to put together relief measures. This will include assisting farmers with low-interest loans. Government has also moved to pass legislation to facilitate a grant for this purpose. Minister of Agriculture Godwin Hull says assistance to farmers has also begun.
It's been going good. The team has been out there working with individual farmers. As you heard, we have a catalog of most of the farmers. So we've been working with individual farmers to see where that intervention is needed, because it is individual intervention. Some farmers may need seed, some farmers may need, and the idea is we're going to use coupons. So you want to get a coupon for what you need, then you go and get that. You don't get money in your hand, because we don't know what you're doing with the money. So if it's fertilizer you need, if it's seed you need, you'll get a coupon for that. The grants that we're getting, or hope to get, has to be triggered by some piece of legislation. It can't just be that we're saying, well, oh, we have this. So the piece of legislation that came out from the Governor General was in order to trigger that. But also it gives us the opportunity to be able to deal with all the other things that we have on the table. Our sugar export, which is one we're talking about, our corn exports, etc. It gives us the opportunity to be able to deal with that in a more focused way through the banks and through the other agencies. As you heard at the press conference, the most fundamental thing was the financial intervention of the banking sector, because that's where people will hurt the most. You don't have a product to sell, you need money to replant, and you need a little reprieve in your repayments.
The losses are expected to trigger some spikes in prices for consumers in the future, and the ministry is monitoring the situation to avoid price gouging. On Tuesday, PUP's Julius Ispat spoke on the pending results of the Senate inquiry that took place between 2016 and 2017. Back then, the Senate Special Select Committee met for more than 40 sessions over the course of 13 months as it investigated into the Auditor General's Special Audit Report of the Immigration and Nationality Department for 2011 to 2013. Over 2 years, there is still no report. Today, when the media asked Minister for Immigration Godwin Hull about the report, he did not have much to say, except for the following.
I wish I knew. I wish I knew. The Senate inquiry was such a big thing. We can't get a report, you know.
Director of Immigration, Diana Locke, will be leaving her desk at the Immigration Department as she nears the age of retirement. Locke assumed the post in early May of 2016. Before then, she was at the Foreign Ministry, where she served for 24 years as Chief of Protocol as well as Director of Consular Matters. Upon taking up her position, Locke was expected to restore integrity to the Immigration Department that had been rocked by scandals under former Minister of State Elvin Penner. So who will replace her? Today, Minister of Immigration Godwin Holt said no decision has been made so far.
Well, she comes to the age of retirement like everybody else, and so she goes on pre-retirement leave. And then when the date is up, then we'll see what happens after that. I think there are people within the ranks who can fill the spot easily. So we'll see how that works.
With the same level of integrity?
Of course. A lot of people in that department have good integrity. You know, it's a pity that the few bad eggs have tainted the bag, but there are a lot of people who have worked hard. I could pop off a name like, for example, Miss Deborah Baptist, who's, in fact, I think you all remember the United States gave her a citation up in Washington sometime last year or year before us. So, excellent woman.
When we come back, will Belize sugar be able to enter the CARICOM market? Stakeholders discuss that possibility. Agriculture officials from CARICOM member states are meeting this week in Belize to discuss and get consensus on matters they want to advance. The meetings began since Monday, and today, CARICOM sugar stakeholders met to address the matter of selling sugar, primarily plantation white sugar, on the CARICOM market. Director of the Belize Sugar Industry and Belize's representative on the Sugar Association of the Caribbean, Mac McLaughlin, said it is a huge week for the industry since it has been laboring on this very issue since Belize lost the European Union's preferential prices. Belize has been left to seek new markets to sell its sugar, and one of these is the CARICOM market. But getting Belize's sugar on the CARICOM market is not a simple matter. Caribbean sugar producers, Belize included, are saying that the demand for sugar in the region is about 300,000 tons. 200,000 tons of it is imported from outside CARICOM, even though CARICOM sugar producers are milling up to 500,000 tons. This is then displacing regional sugar producers in the CARICOM market.
What every region does in the world, it utilizes its own sugar products. It's very unusual in CARICOM that so much extra regional sugar is imported into the region when there's such a high production of sugar that's then forced to be exported at very low global market prices. So the purpose of this stakeholder meeting is to examine with an analysis of what happens in the rest of the world and what happens in CARICOM of the use of the types of sugar that are produced in the region and whether or not they can be used in industrial processes in CARICOM in order to replace the use of imported extra-regional sugar coming into the region. We just heard an excellent presentation about that, and it's basically pointing out in many parts of the world that quality sugar, the mill white sugar that's produced in the CARICOM, is utilized for most manufacturing needs around the world. Sometimes for certain beverage franchise manufacturers, they require certain standards of sugar which can be attained through additional treatment of plantation white sugar, but that is a very reasonable investment to make.
ASR's McLaughlin says that they have had very constructive meetings with major industrial users of sugar in CARICOM, and selling Belize's sugar looks promising. But an effective regulatory approach is necessary to proceed.
The issue comes down, is it possible to use sugars produced in the CARICOM in industrial processes? The answer, very clearly from the presentations we're hearing today, is yes. Question is, can we now move forward in both an economic sense and make sure that we're able to sell those sugars at long-term pricing that takes volatility away from industrial users of sugar, but also that the regulatory environment supports that. And we're asking for one simple thing, and that's that under the CET, under the Common External Tariff, that white sugar is placed on the list of ineligible products, ineligible for differentiated tariff duties by different member states. That's what brown sugar, that's the same position of brown sugar in the region. In that case, if we can produce, or other producers in the region can produce the quality required, sugars coming in from extra regions outside the region would have to pay the CET. If we can't produce it to the qualities required, then a CET exemption would still be in place. So it's very simple move that we're moving towards.
To put it for the person who will hear the news tonight, Coca-Cola in Belize is no different from Coca-Cola anywhere in the world. Coca-Cola rules Coca-Cola around the world. That is Sprite, Fanta, Coca-Cola and other products. If they can in Belize use Belize sugar, why can't they in Jamaica use Belize sugar, or they in Trinidad use Belize sugar? It's the same big company. They rule the world when it comes to soft drinks.
Sir, but as big business, even Coca-Cola in Belize wanted to import sugar from Guatemala for their use?
Yes, but that was because of price. And that was nothing more than price. And big businesses will always look to the bottom line where it's easier. That concept rose and died within the day, thank goodness.
Which is what is happening in the region.
Exactly.
That they want lower prices, how do you fight
that? That is what is happening in the region. But what we're saying, if we are a body, we are a common market, And the concept of this common market is to be able to move your products commonly within the market. And if you're going to play this game of buying from outside when it's cheaper and not buying, then you're destroying the market. So let's not have a market then, if that's where we're going to go. Because we in Belize, ASR has clearly said they have the potential, and clearly they do, to perhaps go to refined sugar. But why are we going to do that and make that massive investment when in fact the market is available in the Caribbean for what we are producing?
A ministerial meeting with CARICOM sugar stakeholders is expected to continue tomorrow. The Caribbean Regional Fisheries Mechanism, CRFM, held a joint meeting between ministers responsible for fisheries and aquaculture, CARICOM countries, and country representatives of OSPESCA, a fisheries organization in Central America. Milton Houghton, Executive Director of the CRFM, says they are aiming to address a series of issues that affect the region.
We're discussing a wide range of issues related to sustainable development and management of the marine and fisheries resources and aquaculture in our member states. These resources are very, very important. They have been for food security, for jobs, employment, livelihoods, as contributed to the very important tourism sector, and also for generating trade and earning very important foreign exchange for our countries. But of course, the fisheries sector, we face a lot of challenges, ranging from climate change, ocean acidification, the changes in ocean currents, changes in the acidity of the oceans, the warming waters that is impacting on our coral reefs and other marine ecosystem, a host of biophysical problems, as well as, of course, we have the challenges, the socioeconomic challenges, challenges for integration in the global economy, challenges for trade, challenges to develop the full potential of the marine resources that we have available to us so that we can optimize the contribution they make to our economic development. We also face problems associated with IUU fishing. So these are only some of the issues that we will be discussing today. At the end of the day, we hope to arrive at a joint action plan setting out the priority activities and the modalities for cooperation to realize these activities and to make sure that we derive the benefits that we are seeking from these resources.
Coming up after the break, a rescue that will keep a manatee alive.
With over 100 years of service
a port with a global perspective.
15 entrepreneurs are attending a Training of Trainers entrepreneurship workshop at the Department of Youth Services. A regional consultant who works at CARICOM initiative called CIBO, the Creativity for Employment and Business Opportunity, is conducting the sessions, which have also been held in other CARICOM countries. We stopped in at the DYS on Regent Street to find out more.
CIBO, for the record, is Creativity for Employment and Business Opportunity. It focuses primarily, the target audience is young people between 15 to 29, and we've done this project in 13 of the 15 CARICOM member states. Over the next 5 days, what we have been doing, we've been covering personal development, we've been covering accounting, business planning, we've been covering customer service, we've been talking about icebreakers, how to facilitate. We've been covering a lot of elements that can help with the trainers. In the coming weeks, we're going to have the CIBO community workshops themselves, which in that capacity, that's when the trainers will become more active. So the trainers are being equipped to undertake everything else that will follow from here. In today's workshop, we're doing Facilitation 101 primarily, and underneath Facilitation 101, we're talking about how to become a CIBO facilitator. We've been covering also the elements of a business plan. So one of the most exciting elements of the CIBO program itself is the fact that it affords persons who are not necessarily in business an opportunity to get a business experience. So everything we do here is also simulated. So we give real money to real people to start real businesses over the next 2.5 days.
I came here with the mentality that it's going to be a regular training to just, teach us different skills that we might have to apply to the other youths that we'll be reaching out to. But I'm utterly surprised how interactive and fun it has been. I feel like a family with all of the other trainers that are here participating. And so it's just a very fun, interactive workshop. And also another thing that we did was a very interactive approach to being able to fully understand what it takes to run a business. So they're not only training us on how we can be facilitators for other individuals, but also to get first-hand experience of starting a business and everything that it takes to fully run and manage a full-time business. With my job, what we're currently doing is we want to work with young entrepreneurs to help them if they're just starting a business or would like to start a business. With my job, we want to be able to help them so that they can have a very successful business. And so just the skills that I'm learning here, I'll be able to definitely implement on my job just to empower and to provide knowledge to young entrepreneurs.
This is only the first of 3 parts. So right now we're training trainers, and then part 2 will be coming on the 14th of October and throughout that week, where we will be getting young people who have come back to Belize through the process of deportation through the U.S. And they will be getting this hands-on training as well. So we know that it's difficult right now to be finding jobs or employment on a whole. So it would be great for them to get skills necessary if they would like to start their own businesses. And so for this part, where the trainers are being trained on that, they would also come back and assist us as we train them. And then we'll have one more training starting the 21st of October throughout that week for any unattached young person who would like to start a business in Belize.
Today, Manatee conservationist Jamal Galvez was presented with the Paul Harris Fellow Award. It is an award bestowed by the Rotary Foundation of Rotary International to recognize and express appreciation for substantial contributions made. The Paul Harris Award recognizes individuals who have contributed or in whose names contributions were made to aid humanitarian efforts. The Rotary Club wrote, quote, Jamal grew up in Gales Point, Manatee, a small village in southern Belize, where he developed a love for animals, particularly manatees. Today, his work centers on conserving the endangered Antillean manatees of Belize, unquote. Responding to the recognition, Galvez says, to be acknowledged or recognized is one thing, but being acknowledged and recognized by folks whose sole mission is to serve others makes it even more meaningful. As those of us who spend our lives in the service of others understand the sacrifice, determination, and dedication that is required to do so. but we also know that feeling that joy in the heart we get from helping others in need or those that can't help themselves. Galvez, who works with the Clearwater Marine Aquarium Institute, is a National Geographic Explorer Award recipient, as well as Ocean Hero and WWF Planet Hero. A 2 to 3 week old stranded manatee was rescued over the weekend. Manatee conservationist Jamal Galvez says that he was called out to the Belize River in an area in Lake Independence in Belize City where they found the calf wandering. According to Galvez, it appears that the calf got separated from its mother, which was likely caused by a boating or other human activity. The calf is now safe at a rehab facility in the north, and it is expected to make a full recovery. It will be released into the wild until 2 years' time. Today, Galvez shared more about the rescue.
We saw this young calf on the shoreline near the Pelican Bridge here behind the flour mill area. And it was just splashing around. We looked in the area to see if there is an obvious other manatee that perhaps could be the mother of the calf, as we don't want to take a calf away from its mother. After doing so, we realized that the animal is alone and is in need of assistance as to its size and approximate age. It shouldn't be there by itself. So we sprung into action and we rescued the little calf and head on to transport it down to Wild Trucks at the rehabilitation center where it is currently being rehabbing, and it'll probably be there for a year or two until the animal becomes of a certain weight, size and behavior to be released back into the wild.
Any preliminary evaluation has been done to determine maybe the condition of the calf? Is it maybe sick, ailing, injured?
From my first assessment, it didn't seem as if it had any physical issues other than some minor scratches that it may have picked up thrashing around in the mangrove. It was very dehydrated, which you could have seen from the video of his folded stomach. That's not normal for manatees. Manatees are usually fully rounded and full out now. So we administered some Pedialyte to address the dehydration along the way, and now he's in the hands of the capable folks at Wild Trucks. The calf is estimated to be around 2 to 3 weeks old, just 115 centimeters, and I think 41 pounds. So it's a very small calf, very underweight for its size and for its age, but it is currently in rehabilitation and currently has been showing good signs. We're very encouraged by the folks at the rehabilitation center that this animal will recover eventually, and the goal is to eventually get it back into the wild where it can contribute to what is considered an endangered population already. Many people were concerned in the video about the garbage pollution that was seen on the river and that the manatee was thrashing around in. We too are concerned at Clearwater Marine Aquarium Research Institute. We promote clean environment. Clean environment is healthy for both wildlife and human beings, and so we've been looking into carrying out river cleanup and cleaning up that area along with people like Luz Hunter to try and address that situation. Everybody knows that area is very polluted, but it seems that nobody wants to take on the task. But we're trying to partner with as many organizations to try and do something about it. This is our country, this is our environment, this is our home. Nobody is going to protect it or clean it better than us, so we're taking up the task to do so as well.
Galvez says that they are working on setting up a toll-free number for the public to report manatee-related incidents. And that's the news. Don't forget that tonight's broadcast is available in both text and streaming video at channel5belize.com. You can also connect with us on our Facebook page at facebook.com/News5Live. I'm Marlene Cuellar. Thanks for joining us, and from all of us here at News 5, good night.